Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 2 of Movies with Matt. I'm your host, Matt Drello, and this is the show where we talk about movies. So let's get into it. 2022, what a year. But in terms of movies, it was pretty good. There's really nothing else to say about the year overall, except if we actually wanted to talk about the real world events. But we're not going to, so we're going to talk about the best and worst movies that I saw in 2022. And keep in mind, this is all my humble opinion. If you disagree or agree with my opinions, let me know. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Because if we didn't listen to other people's opinions, then what is this world for anyway? Alright, so we're going to talk about the worst very briefly, because you know what? Why would we want to talk about the worst that much? Because they're just bad. Why would I talk about them? I mean, I could talk about some of the disappointments that I've faced over the year, like the Menu. I didn't really enjoy that much. I appreciate what it's trying to do. It's trying to be sort of a critique, sort of a look into how we value art and sort of criticism with it. And I think Ray Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy like really make the movie. Like every time they're on screen, it's good. It's good stuff. And the food, delicious. I mean, it's a movie about food. You gotta make the food look delicious. A lot of people got really into this movie, and I just didn't. It just... not much I could say. It was just sort of, kind of lackluster at parts for me. Not that it was, like, badly paced or anything. I just feel like there were times where I just wasn't interested. There's really nothing much else I could say about the Menu, so. But I'm glad a lot of you all are loving it. I'm just not one of them. Next we have Lightyear, and yeah, Lightyear was pretty the dreaded word. I'm gonna use the dreaded word, mid. Pretty boring, generic, forgettable. Like, the one thing a Buzz Lightyear movie I think should not be is just generic. Because, like, it's Buzz Lightyear. Like, I want to see fun space battles. I want him to defeat the evil Emperor Zurg. Then I remembered I just watched the Buzz Lightyear Star Command cartoon. Or even the Buzz Lightyear sections of Toy Story 2, aka the best movie of all time. But for Lightyear itself, I don't know, I feel like there was passion towards this film. But I think it's more of Disney wanting content. Just a movie for the IP's sakes. Because, of course, now they're making Toy Story 5, so they're going to milk these franchises all they want. I like Chris Evans as Buzz Lightyear. I think he really fits the role. And, like, sure, it's not Tim Allen, but, like, does anyone really want Tim Allen these days? He's kind of canceled. Man, I hate making these jokes. The animation's, of course, really good. It's Pixar. What do you expect? It looks highly detailed, very grand scope, but, like, the problem is, like, it's just set on this generic planet the whole time, and it's not even visually interesting. It's just... there's plants. That's about it. They did my boy Zurg dirty. Flash Season 3 vibes. That's all I gotta say about Lightyear. Like, again, not the worst thing in the world, but, like, it's just forgettable. But for number 7, we got Noah Baumbach's White Noise, which came out on Netflix at the very end of December, and I watched it. And, it's very divisive. Like, it's been pretty divisive. I really like Noah Baumbach. Like, he's written and directed so many great movies, especially a few years ago he did Marriage Story, which is excellent. But with White Noise, I just think it's one of those things where, like, they give a director a budget to do whatever they want. And honestly, good. We should have that more often in a sea of just pointless franchise expansions. The problem is not that this is a Noah Baumbach passion project. Like, I have no problem against it. If anything, I want to see more Noah Baumbach passion projects. But, like, White Noise just didn't click for me. Because I feel like it's just trying way too hard to be extremely quirky. Especially in the first half. Like, I just couldn't get into any of the characters that often. And it's based off a book. And I haven't read the book, so I can't judge it as an adaptation of the book itself. But, like, apparently from what I hear, Noah Baumbach basically, like, did a almost like an entire adaptation. Like the whole thing is pretty much the book, and like with an adaptation, you gotta change stuff up. And like, was A and P in the original book? There's a lot of A and P in this movie. I miss A and P. ShopRite. I'm sorry, but I miss A and P more. Well, Don Cheadle's in it. Don Cheadle, when he's on screen, it's gold. And of course, Adam Driver, Greta Gerwig, they're always good. They're always given 110%. There's a lot of interesting ideas like on paranoia in here. Sort of the 80s culture, how everyone's become like a little paranoid, especially against like the drug crisis and all that. There's really nothing else I could say about White Noise. Like, it just really didn't do anything for me. Like, if anything, White Noise actually kind of fits the title. It's literally just white noise. Number 6, we got Black Adam, The Rock's big passion project for DC, and he really did change the hierarchy. And by that I mean he just made a movie that you could tell was 15 years in development. This is probably the most 2000 superhero movie to come out recently. Like, and not even a good way like the Venom movies. Like, the Venom movies were really funny. But I actually kind of like that The Rock's trying to play a character again. Like, I feel like a lot of his roles, he's just playing The Rock. And this one, it's Black Adam. He's an anti-hero. He's gonna be all, I'm gonna kill people. Like, I'm no superhero. I kill people. But it's like, dude, many superheroes have killed over the years. Like, whatever. The JSA was really cool in it. I like seeing them. Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate, best part of the movie. He's clearly having a ton of fun. What else? Noah Centineo as Atom Smasher. He was pretty annoying. The mid-credits scene was pretty cool until it wasn't, because, you know, recent news. I'm really excited for James Gunn's future for the DC universe now, because I love James Gunn. Very hyped for Guardians 3. But if anything, Black Adam just felt like the last breath of DC, Warner Brothers and DC just not knowing what to do anymore. And honestly, I've been enjoying a lot more DC movies recently than Marvel, so that tells you a lot about the state of Marvel, which we'll get to later. But yeah, Black Adam, it's Black Adam. What else do you want me to talk about? Alright, number 5, we have Don't Worry, Darling. I feel like this is a movie where it's doing a lot of things that previous films have done much better. And of course, that's not a problem. Like, stories are going to always take from others. Like, it's all about the execution. But the problem is, I just don't think Don't Worry, Darling has anything unique about it that, like, sets it apart from the films it's clearly taking influence on. Like, you got the original 1975 Stepford Wives movie. You have Truman Show, Matrix, all those sort of play a role in influence. And, like, it tries to do a lot in sort of this elevated horror thing where it's like, it's the symbolism and the horror of what you do not understand. And that's all great. I just don't think Olivia Wilde was that great in showcasing it. Like, it's really all style, no substance, which is a really blank term, like, whatever. I'm not saying the movie's, like, all terrible. Like, I was actually kind of mildly enjoying it for, like, 2/3, but then that ending, I'm not going to spoil anything, but that ending kind of just ruined everything. It really did. Florence Pugh and Chris Pine, best parts of the movie. I feel like I'm saying a lot. Like, these actors are clearly giving it their all. I'm saying that a lot, aren't I? But at least they're giving him more effort than Harry Styles. Sorry, Harry Styles fans, but I didn't like him in the movie. It is well made. There's a lot of intrigue about it, and the production history is kind of weird, but you can look that up in your own time. But Don't Worry, Darling is just, it has a lot to say about sort of the relationship between women in a male-dominated society, which, of course, is the real world. But again, I think a movie like The Stepford Wives did it extremely better, and I highly recommend you all watch that movie instead. Well, unless you want to see Florence Pugh and Harry Styles, then watch Don't Worry, Darling. But not for me. Didn't like it. Alright, number 4. It's Morbin time! Honestly, y'all kind of overhyped how bad Morbius was, because it was bad. I'm not gonna lie. I hate Jared Leto. Man, I hate Jared Leto. But honestly, the movie was just kind of just plain bad. Like, I think there's worse movies out there than Morbius. I'm gonna be, and that's shocking for me because I was expecting the worst of the worst. But like, what we got was just a generic comic book movie that obviously went through a lot of reshoots because we had to connect it to the rest of the Spider-Man movies because Michael Keaton's Vulture appears in the mid-credits scene because of shenanigans with No Way Home, and you already know this. It was in that trailer. Michael Keaton was in the trailer. You already knew this would happen. But honestly, I kind of liked how it was taking itself a little bit seriously. Well, as serious as a movie about a Jared Leto turning into a Dr. Vampire. I haven't really read much Morbius, so I really don't have that much context going in. Funny, the comic book guy doesn't know about comic books. Whoop-de-doo. Matt Smith was in the film for a little bit. He was pretty funny in it. He had that dancing scene. It can't top Tobey Maguire's dance in Spider-Man 3, but, like, what can? Honestly, this Morbius has been, like, talked about to death on the internet. And especially being a subject of the meme culture, that, like, I really don't have much else to say about Morbius. Like, it's bad, but, like, I can think of 3 other movies that came out that are worse than Morbius, so that's all I'm going to say about that. Alright, now we get to the really bad stuff. Like, these are, like, some infuriating movies, in my opinion. Really, really bad. At number 3, we have Alex Garland's Men. Yep, the movie's literally called Men. Now, I like Alex Garland. He wrote 28 Days Later, which is a great movie. He wrote and directed Ex Machina. Really great. And he also wrote and directed Annihilation, which is pretty underrated. But Men... Remember I was talking about with Don't Worry Darling, how, like, it tries to, like, say a lot about how women are treated by men? I mean, the movie's literally called Men. Like, that was already given. And it's a weird movie because, honestly, filmmaking-wise, it's actually really, really good. And, of course, Alex Garland knows what he's doing. He knows how to create interesting shots. He knows how to create tension. He knows how to create some symbolism. But the problem with Men is, much like Don't Worry Darling, this is a movie that, like, it thinks it knows more than it does. Because, like, Men wants to be this profound take on a woman realizing the men in her life have basically ruined it. Kind of told through a horror lens. But the problem is, like, the execution is just so ham-fisted and just blatant, uninspired, really. It reminds me a lot of Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho, which was another movie about sort of focusing on similar things. I actually like the contrast between the modern day and the 60s. Not much, but, like, something. Men is pretty straightforward, but at the same time, I'm just thinking to myself, come on, this is Alex Garland. You could do better than this. And there are unintentionally hilarious moments, like it almost goes Evil Dead at points. Just not in a good way, though. Like, just really weird Evil Dead moments. But, like, it's the movie that people who really don't like A24's approach to horror think all of A24 horror movies are. And honestly, this is also distributed by A24. But honestly, this one, I actually have to agree, this was not a good movie. Again, it tried to be profound with its themes and ideas, but, like, it just stumbled the bed really quickly. At number 2, we got Jurassic World Dominion. Talk about a movie... Well, the Jurassic World series has not been that great. Like, Jurassic World is, like, mediocre. Fallen Kingdom has a lot of fun B-movie elements, but it's, like, stuck in a series of characters that's making really bad decisions without any real brain. But Dominion is probably the worst of the trilogy. And we already got, like... And this is not even... This is the worst in the trilogy, and we already have the bar set very low. So, like, that's impressive. Colin Trevorrow, he's just not a good director. Like, he tries to be this big action director, but, like, he's just not good at it. And nothing against Trevorrow as a guy. I'm sure he's a nice guy. he gave his Star Wars Rise of Skywalker royalties to charity. He's probably a nice guy, but like, dude, just stay away from these franchises, please. I can't. It just doesn't have like. Of course, no one can top Spielberg with his work on Jurassic Park. All the sequels have not been on par with Jurassic Park. Like, Jurassic Park's here, everything else is here. And speaking of Jurassic Park, this movie has the return of Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum from the original, reprising their characters, and what can I say? It's another 2010s, 2020s movie featuring an IP where the original cast come back, and there's a lot of nostalgia factors, and it just didn't work. Like, I feel for Sam Neill in that movie because he clearly did not want to be there in the slightest, and who can blame him, really? Which is strange because some of the best parts of the movie are when him and Laura Dern have interactions. Those are actually pretty fun, but like, aside from that, but the biggest sin I think Jurassic World Dominion does is that it wastes its premise. We're in Dominion, we have a world where now dinosaurs are living around the Earth. Like, that alone should open up a bunch of new stories, but what do they decide to do? Evil company is making locusts to destroy crops. What? You have a movie about dinosaurs. Why are you bringing locusts into this? And of course, Chris Pratt, Dallas Bryce Howard, they're just boring in the movie. They really have no chemistry at all. Some of the action scenes are decent on paper, but just, again, because Trevorrow's not that great of an action director, the execution is so weird. There's a lot of weird. There's not good enough blocking or staging in any of the action moments. It's just a movie that just feels like it was made because Universal wanted money from the Jurassic Park franchise. And this is apparently the last of the series. Knowing Universal, they'll probably make more. But honestly, just stop it here because, well, they should have just stopped it after Jurassic Park, really. That's all I gotta say. Jurassic World Dominion, as Jeff Goldblum, to paraphrase Jeff Goldblum, because we gotta be PG here, that is one big pile of poop. At number 1, the worst movie of 2022 is Thor: Love and Thunder. Now, there's been a lot this year about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, between like people getting tired of all the content coming out, the VFX workers being completely overworked and underpaid, which unionize. But like some of the projects I've actually kind of enjoyed. Like I liked Wakanda Forever and Multiverse of Madness a bit. Moon Knight's alright. I haven't seen She-Hulk and Miss Marvel yet. But then there's Love and Thunder. In my opinion, the movie that has everything wrong with the MCU in one movie. It has everything. It has great potential for a story. Like, they're borrowing off one of the best Thor comic runs. But this film is not concerned with telling a serious story about godhood, what it means to be a god, what it means to love someone. It tries, but somewhere in the Disney, Marvel pipeline, it just gets washed away just so they can have another Ragnarok. And the problem with the film is that it focuses on comedy above everything else. And I think for a movie that's dealing with Gore the God Butcher, I don't think doing the Ragnarok tone was an appropriate decision. Like, I think if they had, like, Infinity War Thor, that would have been great. But no, we have goofy jock Thor, or class clown Thor, as I like to call him now. And of course, Taika Waititi is usually a good director. I really liked what he did on Ragnarok, but like something, maybe it's because of the Disney notes, or maybe just because he got a little too into his head, but like, also there's been reports that like the script wasn't even finished when they started filming it, but that's a whole other Marvel problem. It just doesn't work. Like, it's clearly trying to be a funny movie, but like, it just, none of the jokes land in my opinion. And then there's the VFX, which I already mentioned before, Marvel's staff is like understaffed, they're underpaid, overworked, and I can just tell Love and Thunder is just a sign of that burnout really starting to showcase. Like, it was shown in other Phase 4 films, I'm not even going to act like that. Like, even go back to like the third act Black Panther. But here it's like at its worst. Like, people don't even feel like they're in the same location anymore. Like, it's just people on green screens, maybe like actors being filmed separately from each other, like no real interactions. And like, it doesn't help. Like, No Way Home, at least for me, was able to like find ways around those problems for a real emotional time, but Love and Thunder, it just didn't. Like, you could really tell this stuff is really hurting the VFX company, and like my respect goes out to these guys. Like they gotta unionize. Like, this stuff cannot continue. Not just because it's a bad Thor: Love and Thunder is a bad movie. Like, this is a problem that permeates even through the good Marvel stuff coming out recently. But I think if there's anything that Thor: Love and Thunder did the worst, was the trailer came out when I was in a low point in my spring semester, and honestly, that trailer really cheered me up, and I was really excited to see what was going to happen in Thor: Love and Thunder. And then the movie came out, and I just felt nothing. I think that's the worst thing a movie can do, is not even make you feel angry, because I am angry at the movie, but like, the thing is, I just feel depressed talking about it. I feel nothing. I think that's the worst thing a movie can do. If it can't even leave, like, it does leave an impact on me, I can't even lie about that. But like, when you just feel nothing but disappointment, not even pure anger, just disappointment. I think that's the worst thing a movie can do. And this is not what I want out of Marvel. This is not what I want out of movies. And the Marvel fatigue's just starting to hit. So I think after Guardians 3, I'm really going to start really not committing to these projects as much anymore. I'll still watch them, but like, I'm not going to give them the time of day. But yeah, overall, I say Thor: Love and Thunder, worst movie of 2022. But wait a minute, we're not going to end this off depressingly. I told you, we still have the best list to do. But before we do that, all the way from Canada, one of my good friends, Dan from the YouTube channel Eyebrow Cinema, is going to give us his favorite and least favorite films of the year. Take it away, Dan.
Hello, this is Daniel from Eyebrow Cinema, and my favorite film of 2022 is Tar, which was something of a revelation when I saw it back in November. I hadn't seen any of Todd Field's prior movies, and as such, was not entirely sure what to expect from his long return to filmmaking after a 16-year absence. What I got was a director in complete control of his craft. From the ground up, Tar's formal elements are perfectly organized around the perspective of its captivating titular character. The film's austere cinematography and muted color palette evoke the sheer control Lydia Tarr exerts and the insulated environment she lives within. Where the film really starts to get cooking, though, is when Lydia's life slowly begins to fall apart, with the facade of dignified control crumbling away as the camera movements become more erratic and less refined. Even more exquisite is the film's sound design, subtly but potently articulating Lydia's growing paranoia. The other key component here is, of course, Cate Blanchett, who continues to distinguish herself as one of the best actors alive. There's no central gimmick or tick to Lydia Tarr. She is, quite simply, one of the most fully defined and intriguing characters in contemporary cinema. Since release, the meaning of Tar has been fiercely debated amongst critics and film buffs, the film touching on cancel culture, the ethics of separating the art versus the artist, high and low art, class, and abusive behavior. All of these threads are rewarding to unravel, but the core of the movie is power, how it is wielded like a weapon to bludgeon and silence, but also how easy it is for injustices to occur in hierarchical systems. Abuse is so gradual, so neatly tucked away in the nooks and crannies, that it almost seems normal, until the pretenses of power are stripped away and violence is laid bare. The movie is also, despite how that may have sounded, extremely funny, and I suspect will prove even funnier on repeat viewings. The worst movie I saw in 2022 is Hocus Pocus 2. To some degree, I feel bad picking on this film, given it's such a cheaply made production thrown onto Disney Plus for some Halloween-themed content. Maybe I should be attacking big-budget disasters, like Thor Love and Thunder or Jurassic World Dominion, horrible movies with dumb scripts and inept filmmaking that are probably more emblematic of the IP franchise slop which dominates the film industry. But somehow, Hocus Pocus 2 depresses me more, and I say that as someone who doesn't really care for the original movie to begin with. Even so, there's something admirable and charming about how the first Hocus Pocus built a cult audience over time through repeat at-home viewings. Its legacy built on genuine affection rather than marketing or brand recognition. Yet despite organically becoming an inescapable Halloween staple, the sequel was still a cynical, sloppily constructed product, seemingly designed to fulfill a streaming quota. It's hard not to be cynical about a movie that devotes so much of its runtime to shilling for Walgreens. And to be clear, I'm not naive. I was not expecting Hocus Pocus 2 to be some great work of art. But it needn't be so creatively lazy either. From its dull screenplay, where bland characters do a whole lot of running around without actually doing anything, to its hideously ugly cinematography, to its sheer lack of anything interesting, the film is so devoid of creativity or any sense of fun. Hocus Pocus 2 is not a movie. It's content in its blandest and most sterile form. I don't want to end my bit on such a harsh note, though, so I'll quickly pivot to highlight one last movie from 2022 that was special to me. In a moment where superheroes are so overexposed at the multiplex, where tribalism underlines online fandom, where blockbuster spectacle has become so homogenized as to essentially be white noise, I started to wonder if I could ever really love a comic book movie again. The Batman proved that I still could. Turns out when you have a great script, fantastic characters, and dedicated care for the formal elements of filmmaking, these movies can still be special after all.
Thank you, Dan. Always great to hear your thoughts. And if you want to check out more of Dan's stuff, check out the YouTube channel Eyebrow Cinema, which will be right around here. The channel icon. Link will be in wherever I put it. But with that said now, let's get to the good stuff. Let's check out the best of 2022. Coming in at number 10 is Tar, directed by Todd Field. Now, Dan already talked about this movie on his segment a little earlier, so there's really nothing much I could say about the movie that he didn't already, but needless to say, it's very well-crafted movie. Sound design is impeccable. There's not really a lot of music used in the film, except during the orchestra, so you get a lot of ambient noises. Like, this movie makes me dread the sounds of refrigerator humming. It's a real weird sound. Cate Blanchett is, of course, phenomenal. I would want her to win Best Actress, but there's someone else that kind of deserves it more. We'll talk about that later. But overall, Tar, I think, is a great look into the status of celebrities. Like, not even just, like, star celebrities, like, celebrities in any field, and just how sort of culture, positions of power, abuse with that power, cancel culture, all that plays into this woman's rise and fall narrative. And I think it's a very long movie, but I think it manages to like have a great pace to it. Like it never feels boring, and I think that's amazing. Especially in like an almost 2.5 hour movie. Like you never want to feel like, oh, I'm feeling the length. But no, Tar is just incredible from almost beginning to end. Like I have a few little conundrums. Like I feel like there were certain moments where I'm like, I'm not really feeling it, but like, whatever. That's just nitpicking. Tar is a great movie, and I think you should all check it out. But you're all going to check out all the movies on my best list. Number 9, we got Avatar, The Way of Water. Yeah, my man, James Cameron, Jimmy, man. He's been working 13 years on an Avatar sequel, well, sequels. You know, I used to be one of those that think, why is he wasting all this time on Avatar sequels? But then, you know what? I grew up and realized I was wrong. Way of Water, I dare say, is better than the first movie. And I know the 3-hour runtime might be a big detractor for a lot of people, but you know what? James Cameron, he doesn't care about the plot. He doesn't care about the story. He just wants you to experience the world of Pandora. I think that's what the best elements of the first movie did, and I think Way of Water, he did it even better. Like, most of the movie, you're just hanging out in this water tribe, and you know what? The water tribe was really cool. I love the I don't know what you call them. I'm not very an expert at Navi, but the whales, like the whale-like creatures, those were cool. I love that the general guy from the first movie comes back. Stephen Lang, he's just enjoying every minute that he's on there. I even like Jake Sully in this movie. I wasn't a big fan of Jake Sully in the first movie, but I like how Way of Water makes it clear Jake Sully is kind of a bad person and a terrible father. But there's really nothing about Avatar: Way of Water that, like, you've probably seen it. It's already like one of the highest grossing movies of all time right now. You've probably seen it. But needless to say, it is a movie worth seeing on the big screen. I didn't see in 3D because, like, 3D gives me a headache. But when I saw it on the big screen, I was like, every single frame of this movie was perfected. And I think that's what James Cameron's best at. Perfection in terms of blockbuster filmmaking. And yeah, The Way of Water is not only better than the first Avatar, it's probably one of his best movies. Which is not saying a lot because he's only made like 7, 8 movies. I'm very excited for those Avatar sequels though. Very excited. Number 8, we have Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Who would have guessed that one of the best movies to come out was a sequel to the Shrek spin-off? Who would have guessed? But you know what? DreamWorks is back, and I'm very excited to see where this new direction is going now with both Bad Guys and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Honestly, it's just a glow-up of a sequel. Like, animation-wise, great. Like, they get rid of the hyper-realism of the Shrek movies and go for the more stylistic look that, like, Spider-Verse has started to show animated films. Like, you can be stylistic and have fun with it. There's a lot of cool uses of, like, low frame rate in the action scenes especially. But I think what makes Puss in Boots: The Last Wish really something is, like, it really focuses on sort of who you are as a person, how you spend your time on this world. And, like, Puss has to fight this evil wolf, which is, like, who's literally the incarnation of death. Like, wow. Intense. But, of course, the movie has its funny moments. It's the Shrek series. After all, they're always going to have their little fairy tale parodies. And, yeah. Puss in Boots: Last Wish. People have been talking about this movie on the internet all the time. I don't know what else to say about it. Just please watch this movie. It's so good. And if this means we get a Shrek 5, you know what? We're better for it. Number 7, we got Jordan Peele's latest movie, Nope. Jordan Peele has been showing himself as a new face of horror filmmaking since Get Out. Between that and Us, which I think was really good, he's cementing himself. And Nope, I think, is probably... I say Get Out is still his best written movie. However, I think Nope is showing his skills as writer and director are getting even better and better. I think what's good about Nope is how it showcases the dangers of spectacle. How spectacle can be a very dangerous thing and how it can lead to a lot of consequences for a lot of people in the world around us. As well as sort of how Hollywood has treated animals throughout its history. But at the same time, it's just fun in how it does sci-fi horror. It's sort of Jordan Peele's own Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Obviously not that, like, nothing will be Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But of course, Jordan Peele adds a lot of his voice, a lot of great horror scenes, a lot of great nighttime scenes. Like, a lot of the film was shot during the day, yet they made those night scenes look like night. Like, how do you do it? Like, that was amazing. Like, that's like inspired. Daniel Kaluuya, Kiki Palmer, awesome as always. There's one scene where they reference Akira at the end. Gold, pure gold. It's just a great movie from beginning to end. It has a lot to say, but at the same time, balances out with its fun action moments. Yeah, check out Nope. Great movie. And if people tell you don't see it, tell them nope. That was a really bad joke. Number 6, we have Top Gun Maverick. Yeah. Tom Cruise is a Scientologist. Yeah. Top Gun is basically military propaganda. But you know what? Probably one of the best examples of old school blockbuster filmmaking in a while. I already praised Avatar 2 for being a really good example of blockbuster filmmaking, but I think Top Gun Maverick, it's Tom Cruise. Like, he does these stunts for real. Like, he's in those planes. That's what's always cool in the film. They have all the cast members, like, they train them to, like, fly these aircraft and sort of pilot their own cameras in the cockpit. So when you're actually seeing them in the cockpit, it's for real. They're in the sky, they're flying. It's good stuff. Also, I just like that it's a film that sort of brings back sincerity in blockbuster filmmaking. I think, especially with the Marvel movies, we have this whole thing of, like, we need the quips, we need the sarcastic, sort of self-deprecating humor. But Top Gun Maverick and Avatar 2, to extent, don't do that. Like, they just revel in their human emotions. It's a film about it's sort of a commentary, actually, about Tom Cruise's state as a film star in the film industry these days. Like, he's seen as old school, but he's still going to do what he loves, and, you know, who could blame him? It's a very good movie, and much better than the original Top Gun. Funny. Legacy sequels like being the original, like, they're like once in a blue moon, and Top Gun managed to get on there. Also, great to see Joseph Krasinski come back after Tron Legacy. Another good Legacy sequel. Yeah, Tom Cruise has made me believe in cinema again, and can't wait for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning to come out. Alright, now we're in the top 5.
If you are justice, please do not lie. What is the price for your blind eye?
So if you couldn't tell, at number 5, it's The Batman, aka the best live-action Batman movie. In my opinion. Yes, better than the Nolan trilogy, better than the Burton Batman movies. And I said live-action Batman movie because the best Batman movies we all know is Batman Mask of the Phantasm. But of course I love Matt Reeves. Like, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes, gold. Some of the best blockbusters to come out in the 2010s. And when he was announced to be on Batman, I was like, yes! I really like Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne Batman. I think I want to see him more. And they already announced they're making a sequel, so I'm very happy about that. But I think what makes it work is that it's a superhero movie that employs the filmmaking above everything else. Like, of course, I talked about with Love and Thunder about how they're just making these films look like SNL skits now. But, like, the Batman, they don't do that. Like, they really take influence from, like, a lot of detective noir films. And I think it's better off for it. Because finally, we get a Batman movie where Batman actually does detective stuff. Somehow they've never really done that in the live-action movies. He's called The World's Greatest Detective, come on. Also, I just like how this film sort of takes an interesting approach of how Bruce needs to learn that his way of vengeance is just not right for Gotham, and he needs to, like, step up and become better. And I think that's why people resonate with Batman so much. It's just sort of overcoming these traumas and problems in life and just rising above it and being a good good person. I think that's what makes the Batman really special. Yeah, it's like almost 3 hours. Yeah, I could have done with that last scene without that. I could have done without that last scene with you know who. But overall, I say the Batman is one of the best DC movies in a long, one of the best comic book movies in a while. Yeah, it's the Batman. Check it out. Number 4, we got The Fabelmans. Now, you would look at this and be like, oh, it's just Steven Spielberg making a film about his childhood, about how movies are awesome, but Fabelmans is not that. Fabelmans is a very self-reflective look into how one's passions can not only be a good thing, but also be a detriment for yourself and your family. Because it's sort of this important line in the film where it's art, life, family, life, it'll tear you in two. And I think that's sort of the big picture between this film. It's sort of focusing on, yeah, cinema made Spielberg a better person. Well, the cinema gave Spielberg his passion. And his insert character in this film, Sammy, is passionate about film. But of course, he has to also deal with his quirky family, especially his mom, played by Michelle Williams, his father, played by Paul Dano, speaking of the Batman, and Seth Rogen as one of his uncles. Yeah, Seth Rogen's in a Spielberg movie, and he does the Seth Rogen laugh. But he's actually really good in this movie, so it doesn't matter. And of course, knowing this is Spielberg, like, between this and West Side Story in 2021, the dude still got his filmmaking skills intact. Like, the way, like, the camera moves, the way blocking and staging is presented, there's some real tension in just a scene about editing a film. Like, he managed to make that so interesting. Spielberg's so good. Like, why am I even talking about this anymore? Like, just watch it. Watch The Fabelmans. It's one of Spielberg's best movies to come out, and I hope he has a few more movies out of him before he is old right now, so you never know. At number 3, we got the fan favorite movie of the year, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, I can't say I think it's the best movie like a lot of people are saying, but you know what? It's actually worth its praise. I like how it approaches the multiverse, much better than Multiverse of Madness. Oops. This is directed by the Daniels, who did Swiss Army Man with Daniel Radcliffe. I love that movie. And Paul Dano's also in it. Wow, Paul Dano referenced 3 times already in a row. What are the odds? But what I like about Everything Everywhere All at Once, besides the incredible filmmaking, besides how it's really funny, like, it's exceptionally funny at parts. Like, there's one Ratatouille parody, like, that's really good. But what I like about it is how, even though it's a multiverse story, it's centered around a conflict between a family sort of growing apart and trying to get back together through their own set of problems. And maybe it does, and it was very emotional. Like, I think it had a lot of heart to it, and I think that's what, it probably wouldn't have been as good as it was. And of course, Michelle Yeoh, Kei Oi Kwan, Stemi Hizu, they're all really great. They provide a lot of great action scenes, but they also bring a lot of heart to it. Koi Hoon Kwan especially, like, this dude, like, just disappeared from acting, and then he just came back full force. Can't wait to see what he does next. Apparently he's going to be in Loki Season 2. So yeah, Everything Everywhere. People have talked about this enough. What else can I say? Del Toro's Pinocchio, which came out on Netflix last month. Man, I love animation. One of the greatest mediums for filmmaking. And props for Del Toro for always championing that. And thanks to everyone out there who will champion it as well. Just please actually show adult animation. Like, you can't just show the same mainstream studios and keep saying that point because no one's going to believe it. But back on to Pinocchio, I think in a year where we had like a lot of Pinocchio adaptations, this is the best one by far. It's not even close. Like the other two, I haven't seen them, but no. But this one, it really takes a different approach with the story. It sets it in fascist Italy, which is an interesting choice, I think. It's set in fascist Italy, and it kind of shows how Pinocchio's mischievous. This is actually kind of a needed thing, especially when fascism is on the rise. Like, we need people to break away from that system. But at the heart of the Del Toro Pinocchio is this story of mortality, what it means to be a father to a son again. How you could risk, one can risk being immortal just to be with the people you love. It's very fairy tale. I think that's the best thing. It goes back to the fairy tale roots. I think it's needed. Like, I feel like we're trying to push away from well-told fairy tales, and the Del Toro Pinocchio just delivers that. On top of some really good songs, excellent stop-motion animation, and this was co-written by the creator of Over the Garden Wall. So like that's just cool. And Ewan McGregor is the cricket. Come on, it's Ewan McGregor. How can you not like that? I'm really hoping this gets a Criterion release, because when it does, I will buy it. I will buy it. But just check it out. It's on Netflix. Just, if you have an account, just plop it on. It's really good. Del Toro Pinocchio. It's one of the best animated films in a while, and just another great movie in Del Toro's filmography. And we come to number 1. The best movie of 2022 for me is The Banshees of Inisherin. Why is this my number 1? Between everything else I talked about. Of course, this has great filmmaking involved. Martin McDowell is a great filmmaker and a great writer. Brendan Gleeson, Colin Farrell are in it. They're amazing. Some really funny lines. I just don't like you anymore. But you liked me yesterday. It's really funny, very tragic, all at the same time. Like, but I think why I think this is number 1. I think this movie really hit me. I think this is why I think it's number 1. Is that I've dealt with a lot of friendships that sort of went under the bus, sort of really abruptly, or it just ended badly. I think this movie was sort of a wake-up call for like how far I've come since then. Like, watching this play out, sort of these two friends sort of not only splitting up, but just becoming bitter enemies. To me, when I watch, I'm like, I'm glad that I did not go down this bitter enemies route. Like, I've been able to move on. What this movie is just sort of the dangers of what could being stuck in one place with the same people can do, especially when someone wants to move on, wants to do something different. It could just lead to really bad catastrophe if not dealt with. And really, words I can't say can describe how great Banshees of Inisherin are. I tried to. But for me, I think it is the best movie of 2022. And you know something? That's all I got. It was a great year. There were so many films I didn't get to talk about. But if you have any films you want to talk about, let me know. I'm all ears. And this has been the first episode of Season 2 of Movies and Matt. Thank you all for watching Season 1, making it the hit it is. And thank you for watching this, and don't worry, look forward to more episodes really soon. Next time, speaking of Spielberg, we're going to talk about his 2000 movies with Kane TV President Maria. So until next time, I've been Matt, and watch some movies. Watch them. Or I will find you.